Good afternoon, Professor. My name is Kenneth Brown. Just a little brief introduction of myself. I am a second year, seventh grade civics teacher at Sebastian River Middle School. Uh, Truly enjoy my job. I am a graduate of Lee University in 2015. In referencing the questions that are associated with the first discussion, the first question suggests or it asks, how can you involve your students in their assessments? Well, being a civics teacher, we've learned many different concepts to be able to help involve our students in the assessment process. But one that I have found to be extremely helpful and beneficial to our students is through the induction of learning goals. Before, during, and after we introduce a new lesson, I like to start off my lessons by introducing particular learning goals, goals that will be valuable for our students to succeed on the assessments. For example, right now we have done a lesson, or last week, and we're still continuing in it. We've done a lesson on the Articles of Confederation. So I will introduce learning goals to our children about particular items or aspects of the Articles of Confederation that our children should be familiar with. For example, if they are a four, there are certain contents that they should know pertaining to the Articles of Confederation, such as the strengths and the weaknesses, particular vocabulary words. Again, before introducing the lesson, what I would do is say, by the end of this lesson, you are a four if you are here. You are a three if you are here. You are a two, and you are a one. I think this is a great way to involve our students in the assessments to know where they are and areas that they can improve. I introduce vocabulary. Vocabulary is also introduced into the learning goals. Specific vocabulary that the kids might need to be familiar with that they may see on their assessments. The practices, again, that we put into place is repetition, of course, to be able to introduce the learning goals and where our kids should be in relation to the assessments in the middle of our lessons, and particularly at the end of our lessons before we assess. Again, we cover vocabulary terms and let our children know that this is where you should be if you are four. And they're able to assess themselves areas of improvement. If there are four, what can I do to get, if there are two, what can they do to get to be a one? What can they do to get to be a three or a four? One method that I also found is that in giving a quiz or a summative assessment, allowing our children to be able to grade their work. I believe that when we go over the work, uh, it allows our children to see the areas that they're weak in and areas that they can definitely improve. It shows their strengths and it shows their weaknesses or areas that they need to focus on in relation to any assessment. One thing that our district does as far as monitoring how we are involving our students in the assessment process, we have a wonderful platform called Focus. And on the Focus platform, there is a program called Unify. Our administrators require that after benchmark or unit assessments, that we are able to go into Unify and go through various subgroups as far as different class periods, as far as male and female, as far as minorities, whites, blacks, Hispanics, and we're able to assess what is the percentage, what are the gains, what are the areas of strengths, what are the areas of weakness, uh, so that we can monitor, and also our administrative team can know that these are areas that you need to improve upon. Uh, as we collect that data and we submit it to our administrators, we also have to provide interventions. So if there are huge disparities from one class to a next, if there are disparities from one race or culture to another. Let's say, for instance, we have our Hispanic kids that are performing at a higher level than possibly African American kids. If their test scores would suggest that the African American kids are scoring lower on these assessments, then we have to provide interventions or methods that we will implement in order to assure that all of our kids are learning equitably and that we are including all of our children. If there are struggles, then we need to be able to recognize those things. So, in essence, when it comes down to the practices put in place in involving our students in our assessments, again, I believe that the learning goals are an essential component into involving our students in the assessments. I believe the data monitoring and assessments are a wonderful way for our administrative team to ensure or monitor that our students are being involved in the assessment process, not so much for improvement on test scores, but to make sure that our children are understanding the content that we're introducing. Sometimes, most of the time, at the end of the lesson, what I would do is I would introduce an essential question. I believe that that gives our children exposure to the content of the lesson. And at the end of the lesson, what I'll do is I'll ask sort of an exit ticket as to, in reference to the lesson that we've learned for the day, if you could write down one thing or one aspect that you grasped, or you can write down one thing that you may have struggled with. I believe that this is an effective way. I have seen tremendous gains in our students from the beginning of the year even to now. Our children are more familiarized with this practice and they know the expectations, including vocabulary terms, including key components of the lesson that we're requiring the kids to learn. If we highlight those things in learning goals, I think that it helps our children to be more focused on what they should be learning, hence preparing them better and involving them in the assessments. So I thank you so much for this opportunity to be able to explain or describe involving our students in the assessment process and our administrative team and what they do as far as monitoring that teachers are involving their students. I think that this practice is wonderful. I think that it is effective, and I think that it is something that we will continue to utilize and evolve and develop on for the sake of our children being able to learn the content that is being introduced. So thank you again for this opportunity. My name is Kenneth Brown. I look forward to learning and continuing to grow as I matriculate through grad school, through this course. So I thank you, and I look forward to working with the instructor. I look forward to working with my peers. Thank you. Good night.